The sales secrets needed to build an 8-figure empire, and dare I say it, maybe a really successful life, because it's difficult to build a successful personal life if you don't achieve a certain level of persuasion and sales skills, et cetera, et cetera. So you've done this sales training. You're kind of our chief sales officer. Well, not kind of. You are our chief sales officer here at Seven Figures Funding. And so you've been in sales for over a decade. And there's a certain process that you use with sales, whether you're trying to get your kid to do something, whether you're trying to build a relationship with your spouse, whether you're trying to move a client forward, to jump from prospect to funding client, or any sales process out there. How do you kind of build a sales process? What are some of the 3 or 4 factors or keys that you kind of break it down into? If you're doing a process of sales, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we can break it down and dissect it as much as we want in the, the first 60 seconds, good, strong intros, getting the rapport. But ultimately what it comes down to, in my opinion, in my experience, Leo, is step 1, you've got to develop urgency, right? If there's no urgency, there's no motive for them to even finish this phone call. So you get into urgency, which is how soon do you need it? What's the urgency? How quickly does this need to get done? But the key to urgency is, if I'm going to ask someone, how soon do you need this product, I better follow it up with why, right? If they give me a time, that's okay, whatever. I can use that later in the call, so be it. But if I don't understand why they need this product in the next week and then continue to dig at that, then I've missed the purpose of urgency. So urgency is figuring out why they need it and how quickly they need it.
And digging really deep into the why they need it, right? Most decisions, people don't understand that they're made emotionally and then they're justified logically. And so a lot of new salespeople get out there, and maybe you're trying to build your business funding empire. Maybe you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you're trying to build your business, and you're like, why are my sales struggling? Well, a lot of the times it's because you're focused on facts and all the logical reasons why someone should move forward and become your client. But at the end of the day, it's the emotional. So what's like an example, or maybe we can even role play here, of where you would dig deep into that why?
Well, here's a perfect example, Leo. Right now, we just moved into a new home a few months ago, and the backyard's not finished. And I've had a lot of different people coming by giving me quotes, and most of them don't understand sales. I'm going to be completely honest. And they say, well, how quickly do you want this done? I'll say, well, I want it done within a couple weeks. Okay, great, fantastic. I don't know if that's possible. And they get on to the next thing. But in all reality, if the follow-up to that question, Leo, was, well, why? Well, why? Because I have 2 sons and 2 very, very energetic dogs that are cooped up and stuck inside. And guess what? Now you're starting to get into my actual pain. And that is the biggest lever you have in any sales call, is understanding someone's pain is how you can actually give them a solution and help them start to build that dream and that vision. And so someone follows up with why, and I start explaining the dogs, the boys, the this, the that. Well, they can now start to resonate with me and talk about, oh, well, you've got 2 boys. What if we did this playground here, and you've got 2 dogs? And they start to visualize and dream with me and talk about how, well, maybe we can't have the full thing done, but what if I could get this section done so your boys can start playing, right? Without that follow-up question of why do you want it done in a few weeks, they had no idea that I wanted to make sure my dogs and my boys had a yard to play in this summer.
100%. And so you've titled 3 things, 3 keys to sales that are part of that process. Number 1, you're saying you've got to create urgency. If there is an urgency, then human nature is we're going to take our time and make a decision next year. We may not even do it this year, right? Oh, yeah. And so create urgency. And then you talked about defining that pain. And that's an emotional thing, right? That's not necessarily a logical thing. It's emotionally, man, your kids can't get outside. They're cooped up inside. It's the middle of summer. Your dogs are going crazy. And it isn't maybe safe for them to be running around in the backyard where it's not built out yet. And that's the pain. And so if you dig deep into that, now you can actually get somewhere. Funny enough, I remember when Jill and I first bought our first house. This was back in 2003. That was 20 years ago, man. So we bought a house and we moved into this little house in Sandy, Utah, nice little neighborhood, little split level home. And we moved in and these guys knocked on our door and they were selling Kirby vacuums. And they came in and they did their cute little presentation, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, it's $2,000 for a vacuum." I'm like, what? We just barely moved. We're kids. We don't have money to buy a damn Kirby vacuum for $2,000. And then they started showing the tests like between our vacuum and their awesome Kirby vacuum that they said was powered by NASA rockets. Like they legitimately, yeah, this is the same NASA. It's the same scientists built out our engine. And well, I'm super impressed. So they did the little experiment, but then you know what they did? They found the pain point. Oh, how are allergies treating your newborn baby of 2-3 weeks old? Oh man, he's really struggling. They're like, well, yeah, I bet he is. Look at all this dirt and crap that our Kirby vacuum picked up that your other vacuum couldn't even begin to scrape the surface. And they dug into that pain so well that we signed off. We got him down to like $1,200 or something and signed the agreement, and we financed it, which was brilliant, right? And we, just only literally in the last year, we finally replaced that Kirby. So It did last a long time, but what a great job they did at finding that pain. And then they do the next thing, which is create the dream or vision.
Yeah, and I think the key question you said there, Leo, is how has asthma impacted your newborn? Not does your newborn struggle with asthma? Right? Yeah. The key difference there is one question is open-ended and prompting a response. It's awkward. You've got to give them some fuel versus the other one. I could easily just say no, and it's done. Now they have to move on to the next one. So that open-ended question is very, very powerful there.
And they just tugged on our new parent heartstrings and like, well, yeah, he's going to have allergies and all sorts of potential, illnesses and diseases because you don't have a good vacuum in here. And wow, they just dug at that really, really well. And people move, if you were going to like give a percentage, what percent of people move based on pain versus pleasure?
Whether they want to admit it or not, pain is significantly stronger. And I bet 90 to 95% of people make their decisions and act upon pain more so than pleasure.
Which is always unfortunate. And this always blows my wife's mind because she was this perfect kid that always obeyed everything her parents told her to do. And she doesn't understand that sometimes the only way our kids are going to actually move, more similar to me, is by giving them pain, results, consequences, and difficulty if they don't do what they're supposed to do. And that's where we talk about motivating, leading with love versus, a little bit more of accountability and tough love. And unfortunately, human nature usually goes to, the tough love. That's where we actually get stuff done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if you're, doing business funding and you're working in the business funding space, or maybe you could even share an example of the time that you went to, I believe it was a golf event in Arizona. And you had like a little purchase transaction, and this guy did a great job.
Yeah, that one, I like to talk about this one because it blew me away. It was so unlike me, and I 100% got sold. In a good way. It was a good sell.
It was impressive.
I got off, it was a smaller plane. I got off this plane in Mesa. It wasn't even Phoenix. And it was one of those where you literally go down the stairs off the plane. There's not the tarmac or whatever. And so right when I get out of this plane, I went from stormy Utah to sunny Mesa. And all of a sudden it was so bright out there. I couldn't see a dang thing. My eyes were killing me. It was just brutal. And so we get in the car, and the first place we see is we see a little mall. I was kind of hoping to see a little gas station where I could go get some,
$20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My $20 sunglasses and leave them there and, forget about it. It's just for the weekend. But we find a mall, and I go into a sunglass hut, and I'm looking at prices, and right off the bat, I'm like, I'm not spending $200 for a pair of sunglasses. I can never even hang on to them. And lo and behold, a talented salesperson approaches me and says, wow, well, where are you guys from? He could tell we had our backpacks, everything still on. So where are y'all from? Tell him, I explain, I got off the plane and it was brutal. So, okay, well, do you need sunglasses? Like, I would imagine you're here for the weekend. You probably need these right away, right? Of course. And he starts asking follow-up questions. Well, tell me, what do you know about those $20 sunglasses? Prompting me to be like, well, I don't know. Do you understand what kind of protection that they do provide? And start to explain these differences and the quality behind these sunglasses, and continued to dig and dig and dig at pain points that I didn't even know existed, Leo. I didn't know that I cared about what was actually happening to my eyes behind the $20 pair. I didn't know that I cared that much about how I looked in these sunglasses. I didn't know that I cared about maintaining a pair for a year or two at a time and warranties that sunglasses actually provided. But open-ended questions prompted what blew my mind, like a 35-minute sunglass sale that I didn't even know existed. And sure enough, I walked away from that thing with not only a pair for myself, but a pair for my wife, and left
Got to
sunglasses.
protect her eyes.
Yeah, like $350 later or something. And guess what? We still have them. Both pairs.
Wow. That's actually amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I've heard this story a few times, and the incredible thing is I did always in the back of my mind think how ridiculous it was that you spent that much on sunglasses. So here's a fun story. A few weeks ago, because I had a problem, here's how this can work in online sales. So 6 months ago, Jill and I went in. We were both going to get LASIK. We're super excited. She goes through the LASIK test. Oh, she's a perfect match, perfect fit, gets her LASIK done. Her eyes are perfect. It's amazing. I go through mine, and they're like, you actually don't qualify for LASIK. Sorry. Wait, what? So I don't qualify for LASIK because my eyes are too bad in the far-sighted category. Nearsighted, you're good to go. And so, and this year, you said, hey, I've got to learn how to play golf. No question. We sold the boat, so we got to learn to play golf. So I'm going through. I'm like, I got to have glasses. I want to wear sunglasses out there and still be able to see the ball. So I jump on this glasses.com or something thing, and I'm going through, and I can get like these sunglasses that are prescription based with a warranty and all of the same things. And it's asking me questions and digging into my pain and going through how urgent it is. Well, yeah, it's urgent. I've got to go golfing next week, right? And so I'm going through this entire process, and then I get the warranty, and I just got these glasses, and they were $300, by the way. $300.
Wow. Welcome.
But they're fantastic. They're fantastic. They've got a multiple year warranty on them, and I can see the ball. And you know what's really great? Now when I'm going to like football practice, I'm noticing I can actually see, you know, the routes and the ball better, and if someone's actually open or if they actually did their job like 40 yards away. And I'm like, oh, I probably should have gotten these a while ago.
Yeah.
So it can happen online too.
Yeah, I mean, survey-based sales are, if you can get them to do a survey prior to the sale, it's very, very powerful.